Using altered tensions is one of the most effective ways to improvise over the 5 chord in jazz. It's how Wes Montgomery really gets that dark to light sound and many other jazz greats. In today's class, I'm going to teach you a structured way in which you can learn the altered scale and get these same sounds into your playing. Let's do this. Alright guys, how's it going? My name is Jamie Holroyd. I'm the founder of jamieholroydguitar.com, which is a blog, video lessons, ebooks, Skype jazz guitar coaching, and if you haven't done so already, then please consider subscribing to this YouTube channel so that I can help you become a better jazz guitar player. Okay, so what we're going to be talking about in today's class is the altered scale, and this is a very powerful tool for improvising over 2-5-1s, and many jazz greats use it. Like I said in the intro, Wes uses it, Charlie Parker uses it, you hear it in the theme of Donna Lee, so it's a real classic piece of jazz language. And as a matter of fact, there's another video which I have called free beginner jazz licks over a 2-5-1, and 2 of those use the altered scale, and you can check that video out there. I'll list and link that so you can check that out if you want to get into some licks that use this scale as well. So what we're going to do first is we're going to begin by talking about the construction of the altered scale. So hopefully you guys will be able to see some of the intervals. So why is it called the altered scale? Well, really, I think you've got to first demystify what an altered chord is. So in jazz, we really tend to have 2 types of dominant 7 chords. So I'll explain this by using the chord progression to take the A train. So if we talk about that just for a minute, 1 chord, then we go to a D dominant 7 chord usually. And that, when you go to that D7 chord, does that chord resolve, or does it just kind of hang in there? Well, hopefully most of you will know that that chord does not resolve, and this is sometimes referred to as a secondary dominant chord, but really this is just a non-resolving jazz chord, meaning that if you usually see a 5 chord like so, that would typically go to the 1 chord, which in that case would be G. Obviously in G, take the A train, that doesn't happen. We have 2 bars of C, 2 bars of D, D minor 7, G7, C, 2-5-1. So in that 2-5-1 in C, the second part of that, the G7 C, there we have a resolving dominant chord, and that is the most common type of dominant 7 chord that we have in jazz. It's a destination orientated chord. So when you hear that chord, it wants to go home, it wants to go to the 1 chord, and that's where we can use the altered scale. So the altered scale in terms of intervals, if I play it in the key of G, really is if we were playing over a G7 chord, we have the root, the flat 2 or the flat 9, we have the sharp 2 or the sharp 9, and then we have the third, then we have the sharp 4, then we have the sharp 5, then we have the flat 7. So if I just play it without talking, so as you can hear, it's got a really dark sound really. So that's why, you know, it's got an effective sound, because if you hear it and use it like I did there, go into a 1 chord, you have all these dark tensions on a chord, and they have to come back to that 1 chord. So really, you know, as your ear, most people really struggle with hearing this scale. That's because there isn't many conventional melodies that use this scale. It's not like a major scale or a natural minor scale where most of the American songbook uses those. So it's not one that we're kind of accustomed to hearing, but if you listen to bebop and things like that, a lot of those melodies, as I said before, use the altered scale. So really, in terms of fingerings for guitar, there's 2 common ways in which you can memorize this and start to really utilize the fingering. So you can think of this either in the first way of having a melodic minor scale, a semitone up. So if you take a G7 chord, if you think of a semitone from that, you get A flat, and if you think A flat melodic minor, that is the same thing as a G altered scale because a G altered scale is the 7th mode of A flat melodic minor. G is the 7th note of A flat melodic minor. So if you start an A flat melodic minor, if you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that's where your altered scale comes from. Alright, so you can actually think of the A flat melodic minor as semitone higher. And you can use that instead of thinking of a separate scale or a separate fingering. So that's kind of one way in which you can think about it. Another way is that you can think about this scale as being a diminished whole tone scale. A diminished whole tone scale. So what that means is if you start on G now, the first 4 notes come from a G half whole diminished scale. The second 4 notes come from a whole tone scale, right? Here's diminished, 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's a whole tone scale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Very distinct whole tone scale sound. First part's very diminished. So if you know either of those two scales, you can do a half and a half type of approach, diminished, whole tone. And that's a very easy way, for me at least, of mapping that scale out, because all I think of when I'm doing this in different octaves is just those two scales repeating over and over again. So that's an efficient way to get some fingerings for this scale underneath your fingers. Okay, so now that you've got the fingerings underneath your fingers, let's talk about how you can make music of this. So one thing that I really like about this altered scale is that really you can actually just play this scale, and because the harmony of it is so discrepant of the G7 altered sound, that really works in favour straight away. You don't really have to do much with it as long as you know how to resolve each of these altered tensions. That's the tricky part, hearing these and resolving them. Like for example, if you hear flat 9 over that dominant 7th chord, you have to hear that flat 9 wants to fall to 1. If you hear a flat 13 over the dominant 7th chord, that wants to either resolve to the 9th of C major 7, or it wants to go up and resolve to the 3rd of C major 7. If you hear the dominant 7, the flat 7 over the G7, that can fall to the 3rd of C major 7. So you have to hear each of these notes as being destination orientated, right? You're not just playing the altered scale over a static chord for 20 minutes, it's going somewhere, and that's a really important thing to consider when using this scale. Okay, so here's a line that'll work straight out of the box, right? If you're thinking of this as being A flat melodic minor scale, descend 8 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and that will take you from A flat to A flat, and you can fall on G, which is the 5th of C major 7, a strong chord tone. Okay, so cool sound, right? So that's how it can work. That's just a descending scale, but obviously the rhythmic selection of that is what makes that sound musical. Alright, so if we go on now to the second example, you could just do a variation of that, right? So instead of starting on the A flat, that sounds pretty good as well. So that's the exact same lick, but I've just started it on the G, and there's a melodic idea that uses that. Okay, so that's those are like shorter fragments, but obviously, and when I say shorter, I mean they're just over the 5 chord, right? So what you need to start to do is to piece it together with the 2 chord as well. So the 2 chord in the key of C is D minor 7, G7 and C. So The next exercise, which I'd suggest you do, and of course I'm going to go through this with you, but really the best thing to do would actually be to pause the video and try and do this first for yourself. So you want to try and ascend up the Dorian scale, the D Dorian scale, find 8 notes for that, and once you've done that, connect the closest scale tone from the altered scale and then descend with that. Ascend up the Dorian scale, 8 notes, then descend from the altered scale, 8 notes, and then resolve to a chord tone in C major 7. So I'll give you an example of that. So I'm going to take my D Dorian scale, I'm going to use it in this position right there, and I'm going to use my A flat. I'm thinking of A flat melodic minor because that fits nice and central in this location. D Dorian scale, 8 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Closest altered scale tone, E flat, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then I'm going to fall to the third of the C major 7. Alright, so that's the scale exercise which helps you string these chords together. So let me just make sure I play the exact right lick here. So and that's how that sounds. Alright, so as you can see, a little enclosure is what I did with that to get to that C major 7 right there. So as you can see there, that's really just going up a Dorian scale, then altered scale, descending to get to the C major 7. Alright, so obviously you can mix and match this exercise, and it's a really good way of kind of getting within the scale itself to really making sure that you're not always just starting it on the flat 9, which the first exercise did. You want to try and voice lead into that from different parts of the scale. So really that's what I've done in this next thing. I've reversed it. So I've got a descending Dorian scale going to an ascending altered scale. So and then it once again resolve into that C major 7. Okay, so that sounds like alright, so that's the same thing, I've just reversed it there as well. And these are all just roadmaps at helping you unlock the scale so that you can improvise with it without kind of, thinking about the scale. But these are just all ideas to help you get the sound of it in your ears and underneath your fingers. Alright, so I hope these help you out. That's, I think this is a good starting place for the altered scale. So what I suggest that you do from here is try to apply it to tunes that you know. Now, ones that have a lot of 2-5-1s are fantastic, really, because this is really a great thing to use over the 2-5-1. So what you might want to do is take a tune like, say, Tune Up, which has an abundance of 2-5s, and you want to start to really map out which altered scale you might need. So if we take the first part of Tune Up, now the first part is a 2-5-1 in D, then it goes to a 2-5-1 in C, then a 2-5-1 in B flat. Over the 2-5-1 in D, if we take that A7, what altered scale would you need for that? Well, of course, you'd use the A altered scale. If you were thinking melodic minor, you would need B flat melodic minor, right? So that's the what you need to do there, and you can do that for the entire thing, right? So when it goes to C major 7, 2-5-1 in C, for G7 you could think A flat melodic minor or G altered scale, and then for B flat major, the 2-5-1 in B flat. For the F7 you could think of a G flat melodic minor. Alright, so that would be like a little scale map as to how you could work through Tune Up. So what I'm going to leave you with is a bit of an etude that I composed, and it's a good idea to compose ideas with this scale at a time to get used to it and to get it into your playing. Don't feel like you've just got to whack on a backing track at full tempo and think that you're going to try and use it. It's a good idea just to maybe sit here and think of short melodic ideas with it first, like then you can start to put all that over some repertoire when you're comfortable with that. So yeah, I'm going to leave you now with an etude of me playing over the first 12 bars of Tune Up. I've got tab and notation so you can check it out. Let me know what you think of this in the comment section below. Of course, if you did enjoy this lesson, please give the video a like, and yeah, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the altered scale, and like I said earlier, if you want to check out some more altered scale licks, then please check out my free easy beginner jazz guitar 251 licks, which I'll link to as well. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time.
Thank you.